So here we are inside PyCharm, and we are now going to continue our deep dive into the Python list. As always, with all of these example files, I've added a docstring at the top to indicate what we are going to do in this example, and this program file, like all of the rest in this course, will be included in the source code for this course. Let's now examine the docstring to see what we intend to do in this example. So, we want to create a simple function to gather some user data. We're then going to assign the data to variables. We're then going to add these variables as elements for a new list object that we are going to create. We're going to create a literal and a constructor way of creating a list. So we're going to use both approaches, and we're going to output a print message with the results. This is a relatively simple example. It's just a nice way to get our feet wet with the Python list. Okay, so you can see I have my name and main block right here. And at the moment, I've added a pass statement because I'm going to fill this out later after I have created my function. So let's create the function. I'm going to follow PEP8 formatting, so I need 2 spaces between my docstring and also between my name and main block, i.e. 2 blank lines. Let's create a function called getUserData. And I don't think we need any parameters for right now, so we'll leave no parameters, but let's return a list. So my return is going to be a list, and my type hint indicates that. Let's now go into our function body. I'll add a pass statement for a moment. So what do we want to do? We want to gather user data. So we want to use our input function call to gather user data. But perhaps what we can start with is a nice print statement to create almost a home screen effect so the user knows what's going on. So I'm going to create a simple print statement, and I'm going to add something very simple, and I'm going to say, enter your details with some hyphens. So that looks quite neat. Now on the next line, we want to gather some user information. So how about we gather a username and a user password? So I'm going to create a variable called username, and I'm going to assign to this the return of calling the input function, and I'm going to add a prompt which simply says enter username : space, and we are now returning that to our username variable. Let's create a second variable called user password. User_PW is a professional way to do that. No point writing out the word password. PW is a very well accepted way of indicating that it is a password. So we'll add our input function call once more. We'll add our prompt, and I will say enter password. Lovely, add a space. And there we go. We have added 2 function calls to the input function, and we are returning the data to 2 variables. Next up, how about we create our list? To begin with, I'm going to use the literal approach. So I'm going to create a list called user_details, use my assignment operator, and I'm going to create my literal list by using square brackets. That's how I do this. To create a literal list, I just use square brackets. This is the simple way to create a list. Now, between these square brackets, I simply have to add in the elements I want to add. So I will add username as the first element, and then I comma separate that to then enter the second element. So the second element will be user_password. And there we go. I have now created a list. And within that list, I have populated it with 2 elements, those being my 2 variables here. So username and user password have been added as the elements to my list. Fantastic. Now, how about we return this? Because the return is indicating that we are returning a list. So let's return our user_details list, and we have now completed our function. The final step is to move into our if name equals main block and to call our function. So if we call our function, we can see it is returning the user details list. So how about we simply encapsulate that within a print function call? So I'm going to print out the return. So that would be the same as printing out the list. So I'm going to call get_user_data. I'm going to place that function call within the print statement. And then in a very Pythonic way, the returned list from this function is being printed out by the print function call. Excellent. We can now save this program and we can run it to see what happens. Let's save it. And let's go to the top and hit run. So we'll go to the top menu, we will hit run and run list_ex.py. And here we are. We have then entered the integrated PyCharm terminal window, and we have our first prompt asking us to enter a username. So let's enter the username, and then let's enter a password. Not a very strong password, but there we are. And then it has returned the function call. As you can see, he has returned the list, and that has been printed out by the print function call. And we can tell it is a list because we have square brackets. The square brackets encase our list, and the comma separated elements are shown here. And because I've entered 2 strings, these 2 elements are shown with quotes because they are in fact strings. Now, what we could also do is we could exit this terminal window. Let's add something else to our if name equals main block to verify that we do in fact have a list. So let's close this. Let's go back into here. And rather than calling print directly, let's delete that print call. Let's assign the return to a variable. So let's call this list underscore var. So again, I haven't used the word list directly. I've used LST because it's bad practice to use reserved keywords in your variable names. Then I can look at my type function and I can enter my variable into there. And let's then print out the return here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to print out the type of our variable just to confirm that it is in fact a list. Okay, I'll save this, go to the top, hit run once more. We will run this program. And here we are within the terminal window. And I've got the prompt once again. So I'll enter a username. I'll enter a password, hit enter. And there we go. The type of our return variable is a class list, indicating that we have, in fact, created a list object, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we set out to do. All right. The next move is to now see if we can recreate a list in this element over here, but by using a constructor rather than a literal. This is, in fact, a very simple operation. We simply re-enter our variable, just because I'm typing it all out just to show you exactly what you would do. I would call the list constructor, which is the word list, have my parentheses, then I need to pass in an iterable, and in this case, I'm just going to pass in a list, and this iterable list is going to have the elements username and user underscore password. I could now comment out this line because we're not using that, and we have now used the list constructor to create our list object, and we have assigned it to our user details variable. We have returned that variable, and then in our name main block over here, we are printing out the type, and we should also see that this is a type list. So let's save this and then run this code. So let's go to the top menu, run list underscore ex.py, and there we go. The prompt is there once again. Enter a username, enter a password, and we can see we again have a class list, indicating that we have created another list object by using the constructor on this occasion. Now, I think you can tell right away that this is a much easier way to create a list than using the list constructor. There are no benefits for us doing this because we are essentially creating a list object and passing it in to the list constructor in order to make the list object. That's very convoluted, I think. So we will just stick with using literals when we are creating lists for the rest of this course on the most part. However, there may be occasions where we will have to use constructors for other data types. Okay, let's now dive back into the slides and take a moment to just refresh how we create lists and what the general syntax is for creating a list literal.
Get the full course, Python with Dr. Johns, at hackr.io.